There we go. Right, so we're going to start with Instagram. And as Jane said, Instagram and other platforms are going more down the video route. And in light of that, fingers crossed, if, as Rob said, the government doesn't lock down everything, next month, I'm doing an in-person training at Carey's Manor. It's the 24th, I think, isn't it? That you can book on through NFBP on short form video. So regardless of what platform you're on, more and more video and short form video, short videos is becoming pushed more with the different social media platforms. So rather than focusing on just one platform, we're going to do a kind of an overview on how you can use short form video, tricks, tips and tools to help you make that a bit easier. So, and not everyone wants to do on screen, not everyone it's appropriate to do on screen. So it's other ways that you can get around that and still utilize that method to continue to get your message across as the algorithms continue to push video. So have a look at that at the end through the NFBP website. So some of you who are on Instagram and have been, prefer to use a desktop. It's much easier when you're in your workflow, everything's on your desktop, you've got photos on your desktop, you've got content spreadsheets, etc. on your desktop, plans on your desktop. Instagram, which has predominantly always been a mobile first platform, is finally allowing this week, in fact, it rolls out as of tomorrow, people to actually upload photos and post via their desktop. So I know people like Jane it'll probably be music to her ears, where it's like, oh, I don't have to be on the phone and have it logged in on the right method. So it's adding both image and video posting functionality, but just for the feed. So those of you that are on Instagram, it's not reels, it's not stories, but at least it is your main feed. And it will allow you to post them videos of up to 1 minute in length. So that's going to make it a bit easier for some of you on that platform, and you won't have to keep sending images to your phone or potentially use a scheduling app to do it, or have to use good old Facebook, which can sometimes be quite clunky, particularly as they keep changing things. So it might make it a bit easier for you to streamline your workflow. And then another update that's coming is for those of you that have perhaps been on Instagram and see stories, which are basically short clips or images that build up over a day, but then disappear over 24 hours. Previously, if you've had over 10,000 followers, which doesn't apply to a lot of people, but does apply to some people, you've been able to add a link, because Instagram is a platform that doesn't allow a great deal of showing of links. It's very much a photo first or video first platform. Previously, it's been a swipe up to get to that link. They're removing it and replacing it with a sticker instead. And they are considering, which would be music to a lot of people's ears as well, that like Jane trying to share articles and things, they are looking at, but they haven't decided to do it yet, opening it up to more and more businesses. So it's not just if you've got over 10,000 followers. So keep an eye out. I think they're looking at how the links are used. They don't want it to become spammy. So they might expand that link access to more accounts in the future. So this might be the start of that. And some people share their original posts on Instagram to their stories. I'm just checking chat at the same time. Can I check chat at the same time? Yeah. Oh yeah, okay, no worry. So previously been able to do it through an aeroplane on the post and then share it to your stories and other areas. That seems to be also disappearing. They're trying to streamline everything to stickers on stories. So if you suddenly notice, and you've been doing this, that the aeroplane disappears, they are rolling it out instead so that you then go into story first and then click on reshare to share and go through your posts. So that's one to watch out for as well, if that's something you've been doing, to keep an eye on that. Now, Instagram Reels is where we're talking about the short form video again. And what's driving this more than anything is the platform TikTok. And because TikTok is becoming so successful with the younger generation and key at jumping on trends, and it's a video platform first, everything else is pushing it. So Reels is kind of Instagram's answer to TikTok, and it's an element of Instagram that they use short form videos. What they are now bringing in to try and make it a bit easier as they continue to push the Reels usage is they're currently trialing like a montage option of stories. So if you build a story up over the day with different posts, events are quite good to post on stories, for example, as you build up the story of an event, or you do a theme around behind the scenes or something. They're looking at being able to convert a day's worth into short Reels video clips, which will then give them a much longer availability to your followers. And they're looking at building it into the app so that you can splice it together. So that might be coming, and that will be quite useful to some people who are already using those options. And then for those of you that have dived into the world of live stream on Instagram, I know some NFBP members have done this in the past, particularly during lockdown. The likes of the New Forest Tea Company did a lot of, they had a collaboration with a number of other food produce people, and they did Instagram lives kind of every week, and they focused on a different product. So like New Forest shortbread were involved, and other people like that. But what was difficult back then was you had to kind of promote your live stream, you had to remind people about your live stream, and then people would forget when the live stream was going to be. And live streams obviously are all about streaming and talking to the people that are on your broadcast. So what they've now done, which is much better, is they've now added a new option to schedule upcoming live broadcasts. So within the app, you can, a bit like events, add that you're going to do a broadcast, what it's on, with up to 90 days in advance. And then you can do like product tags and a description and what you're looking to promote in your live stream. So that's all in advance and people know that it's coming up. But also people who sign up and say, yes, remind me that I want to watch this, they'll be sent reminders to them both the day before the broadcast and then also 15 minutes before the stream begins. So that's going to automate that process for a lot of people and make it a lot easier, and in-app notifications. So for some of you, that might be something that you might want to consider a bit more. And the good news is they're making it a bit easier now to practice a live stream. So you can check your lighting, you can check how the live stream works. So a bit like, you know, I'll jump on when I'm doing a presentation with NFBP, I'll jump on and I'll make sure like the sharing link works, that the audio is working. You can check all of that before you do it. So that's quite a good thing if you've been considering doing a live stream and you want to perhaps have a practice and get familiar with the app and get to know it first. You could perhaps practice with a friend or a colleague before you then open yourself up to the world of live streaming to whoever happens to hop on. So that's rolling out in the next coming months. You might not see it yet, but it is coming. So that is good. So Reels, like I've said, are the Instagram's version of TikTok short form video. Guess what? because Facebook owns Instagram, it is coming to Facebook. So it's probably no surprise. It's already in the US. So as of the end of September, Facebook Reels is now on Facebook. So Reels, in case you aren't aware, they consist of music, audio effects, and more. They're basically short form videos. And on Facebook, you'll be able to find them as they start to roll them out more and more. You'll be able to find them in the newsfeed, or interestingly, in groups. So groups might find that this is a feature that they can use depending on what type of businesses use the group, but you might be able to showcase a reel and then add more engagement in terms of seeing how your users, your group then creates a similar reel and getting them to engage and share with it that way. So it could be interesting depending on what your business is, particularly if you're utilizing Facebook groups as a tool that you could use. And the difference with Reels and why so many people are starting to try and utilize this short form video is because it doesn't just go to people that are following you. It's a way of being discovered. So they can reach everyone, not just your existing page followers and not just your existing Instagram followers. So it makes it a bit easier for you to be seen and get new followers and new people hearing about your brand and business. Interestingly as well, they're adding a new feature in Facebook, which is like a quick access. And the way I kind of think about this is it's kind of useful in a personal way, in terms of like, if you rely on Facebook to remind you of upcoming birthdays, for example, you can then have a quick access tab, go and have a look at whose birthdays are coming up. And if there's any particular sort of social media profiles that you check on regularly, whether you're, you know, trying to see what your sister's been up to, or the ex-boyfriend, or what have you. So it's a bit strange because it's kind of a bit stalky that you can go and have a quick look at people that you recently check up on. But it might also help businesses, because it helps. One of the struggles I'm sure people find, as we've already mentioned, on Facebook is, even if your followers are following your page, it's getting them to see your post because of the algorithm. And so this, where they are big fans of your business and they want to see more about your business, this might help them stay in touch with your business a bit easier. So your good fans will find it a bit easier to find you and find your posts. So we come on then to the platform LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, for a while, I think it's been a year, it might have been a year, it seems to have gone quite quickly, but they trialed stories as well, this 24-hour kind of format. You may have noticed that it's gone away. They have taken off the 24-hour stories. And they're saying, and this is where I said about Matthew saying, oh, it's not such a social media network, because it's a bit more gimmicky in that respect. They're saying, well, users, you know, don't use LinkedIn like that. It's not, some people are on it every day, but a lot of people check in, say, once a week, and to do the content more, you know, within 24-hour window, people want to be able to see it longer. So they've kind of run it as an experiment. Found it's not quite working for that platform. But what they have done is learned about how people will potentially use and create video content. So it is, yes, going, Jane, quite correctly, more down a video route. So they're now looking at how they can incorporate that into a different video project rather than it be stories. And interestingly, Twitter's done the same. So Twitter had fleets, which I know Vicky used to use a lot. So fleets, again, was like the 24-hour quick story function. Twitter has also removed it. So it's interesting that two platforms, particularly the B2B platforms, as I consider them, Twitter can be B2C as well, but business to business platforms in particular have removed that feature. So again, it's an indication that depending on who you're talking to and what your audience is, if you're talking business to business, sometimes those short, snappy videos don't always work with who you're trying to reach. But consumers definitely seem to lap it up. So that is perhaps something to take away from that at this moment. Now, you may have noticed, and I was going to highlight this in particular to Vicky, and it might be interesting for the likes of Jane and Caroline and so on as well, where LinkedIn have started doing events. And they've made much more of the events feature. So particularly, because I nearly added the event for NFPP, the short form video event, to be able to show you. And I thought, no, Vicky might want to do it as NFPP. But essentially, you can now go into your profile, and from your profile, you can create an event. And from there, what you will do is you'll use the page that it's linked to. So if you're an organizer or an admin of more than one page, you can select which business you're running the event for. And then from here, you can add your event name, your event times and dates, and obviously a little bit about the event. You've also got its own cover and its own image, as you can see there, with that blanked out brown bit and that grey bit. And then what you can do once it's published, so you can then invite attendees, you can share it to your business page, you can also manage attendees, and you can post updates about in the event page about the upcoming events, and kind of get, so it might be a good thing as well, Rob, to pass on for the New Forest Business Awards. It's the sort of thing where if people are following it, they can find out more and more as time goes on, because attendees are going to get notified when you make a change about the event or an update about the event. But again, also attendees who have signed up and said yes to the invite will then get a reminder 7 days before, 3 days before, and 15 minutes before the event. And there is as well a live streaming option so that you can go live to integrate with Zoom and other applications, but you have to apply for that access. That's not available, but it is possible to apply from it. So if you want to know a bit more about LinkedIn events, I'm just going to put in the chat hopefully a link. See if that works, to a PDF which will tell you exactly how to do it. So I thought that would be quite useful for a number of businesses, particularly if you are targeting other businesses or you're doing training sessions and so on, where you are trying to connect with other businesses, whether it's conferences or so on. And then the Twitter feed. So this is quite interesting because on all the platforms obviously have to work with an algorithm. They have to work with an algorithm for two reasons. The first reason being that there are millions of people on each platform. So you can't possibly, if everything was on the feed, you would then get whoever just posted last, and it wouldn't necessarily mean as much to you as, say, a close friends post. So the algorithm is supposed to work so that it shows you more and more of what you're interested in. So if I watch a dog video on Instagram, or if I watch a dog video on Facebook, theoretically that tells those platforms that I am interested in dogs, and the way they work is then showing me more of that, and I spend more time on their platform. So I get to see, if you'll notice, if you engage with someone that you haven't engaged with for a while, they then tend to start coming up in your posts. And of course, then they do that so that they can show you the right sort of ads, which then allows them to monetize. and actually run these platforms. Now, Twitter has had this algorithm, and they have for a while had the option to switch back to literally a chronological timeline of tweets from the profiles that you follow. So they've made it a lot easier now, rather than doing what it thinks are the tweets that it wants to show you. If you literally want to see the latest tweets of all the people that you follow in that order, you can now switch back much easier, as you can see here, from home to latest within the actual app. And of course, if you haven't already been aware of it and you are a Twitter user, lists are a godsend. We use lists a lot, and a lot of clients that I work with, like New Forest Mark and Jane has a list of customers. It makes it much easier to filter through. And I have, like, on my list, my own personal Twitter lists, like customers and then interest groups and networking groups, and you can then flip between the lists and see followers within a specific thing. And you can use lists privately for competitors and so on. So if you are on Twitter and you're actively using Twitter and you haven't yet discovered lists, do go and check that out. And then another change coming to Twitter, which is quite interesting, following along from the kind of Instagram and Facebook kind of side of things. And this is starting to go live now in the US. So the US can sign up for this, but there's Twitters for professionals, and the profile then is supposed to give you much more of a kind of, like when so if you're on Instagram and you switch to a business from a personal category, you've got the option to add like directions if you have a local store, not just your website, but then a telephone number and a contact via email. So Twitter are doing the same thing. They're bringing forward a much more engaging, when people look at your profile, the ability to contact you rather than just that short bio and a website link. They're making more of that. And they're also looking at different options in the future for things like shop and newsletter signups. So this is now something that's rolling out in the US, and people in the US who have a professional business can sign up, apply to sign up. So it might, if that is something you are active on and think would be very useful to your business, it might be worth, I'm going to put a link in here, keeping an eye on that for when that opens up to more than just the US, because as it rolls out to one country and it succeeds, it tends to do well in others. So now, how many of you have dabbled or heard of Clubhouse? Caroline's got her hand up. I think Jane might have listened once it first came out. Clubhouse is another platform that really came out during the pandemic, when people were trying to reach out to people, they didn't have a way of connecting to people. Clubhouse is an audio only app. So it's a bit like if you listen to podcasts or you listen to the radio. I suppose in some ways it's more like a radio, because previously it's been whereby you have to know that there's a show going on and you have to listen in real time. So for some people, that's been really good, because when people have been on the platform, they've been very engaged, they've been able to enter into conversations, and people have been able to talk about the business and events and things like that. But then it's quite limiting in the sense that if you haven't got the time at 10 o'clock, no matter how interested you are, if you're busy, you can't listen to it. And previously, they've not made it very easy to search for things that you might be interested in. And previously, they've not allowed replays. So they are now changing that. They've made the search much easier, so you can type in keywords and find chats, if you like, broadcasts about things that you might be interested in. And they've now started to allow the option for your room, as they call it, so like a episode of a podcast, to be replayed, so people can go back and find it, which might be very useful to some people who like working in audio. Some people prefer to broadcast without faces and video and can chat away quite happily. So particularly if you venture into the podcast world or the audio world, it might be that Clubhouse is something that you can perhaps revisit. But it is kind of one of those apps that, will it stay? Was it more of a pandemic kind of thing? So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. So I wouldn't put all your eggs into that basket if you're looking at perhaps having just one social media platform. But if you're looking to perhaps do something a bit more audio based with a bit more detail, Clubhouse might be at least worth a look. And so those are kind of all the major updates to all the different platforms. So now's kind of an opportunity for anyone to ask any specific questions, and I'll do my best to answer, bearing in mind there are lots of platforms and lots of different elements to the platforms. And of course, if you want more help, then you can find me at purple-dog.co.uk, and on most social media platforms you'll find me at Purple Dog UK. And I can't even spell it because I'm typing. Let's try that again. Have I done that right now? No, I can never type when someone's looking. There we are. So if I bring back all your faces, it's now a good time if you've got any specific platform questions for you to ask. Yes, Elaine.
Please, miss, feel like saying, I have to put my hand up. I just got a question for you and just like to know what your view is on it. Do you put in a link back to your website if you're writing an article, or do you not put your link in back to the website? I've
Which
heard
platform?
LinkedIn.
It's an interesting one because, of course, the whole purpose of you being on a social media platform is for you to ideally drive traffic to your website. And the more you do that, the more SEO helps if it's popular. But of course, the platforms want you to stay on the platform. And if you start adding links to every post you do, then they're going to sort of get wise to that and then not promote all your posts. So I would say it's good to have a mix. And what I've interestingly noticed a lot of people doing on Facebook recently, so the same might apply for LinkedIn, is to do it like if you're doing an article, obviously don't do it identical to your website because then that's SEO issues in itself. But if you have an article on LinkedIn that kind of skims the surface and you have a deeper article, more information on your website, perhaps keep the article as separate, but then in your follow-up comments, then add the link.
All right, yeah.
In the post.
Well. Okay.
But like as people start talking about it, then say, oh, if you're interested about this, you can find more information at, and then add the direct link that goes to relevant information on your website. So I would say that's a slightly sneakier way around that. Of course, when you're running a busy business, it's much easier to whack it in the post that you've scheduled. But
thanks for that. Cheers.
Yeah, go on, Jane.
Well, I suppose I was just going to say, so presumably these vast corporations will have done massive amounts of consumer and customer research to determine these new directions and really believe that this is what people want.
The new direction in particular is the fact that TikTok, particularly during the pandemic, has been the fastest ever growing social media platform. It's not up in the numbers of Facebook and Instagram, etc. yet. It's just literally reached 1 billion users. But because it's had such that sharp increase, particularly with the younger generation, that they feel that they've had to in order to keep people on the platform, particularly the younger generation, to implement some of the things that are on, not necessarily always successfully, are on this platform. Now, if you go back to the, starting to show my age, if you go back to the days, I don't know if you can remember MySpace. Can you all remember MySpace? MySpace does still exist, actually. You can still go to MySpace, but MySpace was the social media platform of the day. And then Facebook completely took it over. And it was because all the younger people moved from MySpace to Facebook. And so history has kind of showed that wherever the young people are at and jump onto, it kind of grows, explodes. And that's where the money is to start with, although TikTok are having a harder job to monetize the platform.
Yeah, they would do, wouldn't they? Because it's the older, I mean, the older people are all on Facebook and they,
yeah.
But what was I going to say? So they presumably are basically encouraging, and this is probably what's really happening, certainly more and more of these younger people to spend more and more of their time on these platforms.
Most definitely. And that is what all these platforms are about.
Yeah.
It's,
I mean, it's quite
the amount of time you spend on
it.
it. So they want you to spend more and more and more and more time on it, because the more time you spend on it, the more adverts they can show, and then the more money they can make.
Yeah,
that's the cynical bit, but it's how you then utilize it as a business, isn't it?
Yeah, but it becomes more and more difficult, doesn't it? Because you have so many, you have an increasing number of choices to make.
You do, and equally,
depending on your business, obviously.
Yes.
I mean, if your business is a simple, you know, if it's really clear, you can make clear choices. For me, with Livingston.com, it just gets more and more difficult.
Yeah, and sadly, more and more, the way it's going is more and more in sort of going towards a shorter attention span.
Yeah,
and people having such a short attention span, and therefore
inevitably
it's the quick video, quick win, because they haven't got the attention span. They're so used to scrolling, and that's why the video is driving it.
Yeah, I think it comes back to the point you made early on, Rebecca, about choose your platform, not just the one you're comfortable with, but also the one where your audience are.
Yeah,
work it well, rather than trying to be a little bit across a whole range of different platforms.
And then experimenting within that platform. So it may be, just because video posts are supposedly the best thing at the moment, if you've got an older generation that don't like watching videos and they do have a longer attention span, you can experiment with doing a bit of short video and normal longer form posts. And if your engaged users prefer that, then they'll see more of that other than the video, and you'll look at your insights and see that that's the best thing to do for you. So no matter what the trends are, the best thing to keep doing is to look at experimenting and look at your own insights, not be told you should be doing this, you should be posting that. You should experiment, yes, but then look at your own insights and what's working for you.
Yeah, it's a good point. So not just listening to the metaphorical person down the pub, or indeed someone next to you in this Zoom screen.
Yeah, and it's not always appropriate. You can jump on trends, but it's not appropriate necessarily for every business to jump on a certain trend. You know.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be trying to be a comedian if you're a funeral director, you know. it's not always appropriate. It's about, you know, it's about not getting swayed and doing what's right for your business.
Yeah. I mean, you know, those of us in this room gain a lot of our business by networking, and actually video is a really good way of putting some personality into your interactions and building that connection, rather than just doing another meme or another text post. People,
you know, and like Caroline was saying, Gillian was saying, you know, that what's different about your business to every other business in that industry, and it is about you. So if you can make it more personal and add more video and talk about products or ways that they can work with you, then they'll get to know you much better. And the old adage is always true: people always do business with people, and they always come back to people, not whatever the product or the brand or the color or whatever it is. They want to do business with people. So, and that's another reason why video is kind of being pushed a little bit more, because like for the likes of me, it's making my life harder as a social media manager where I will work for clients, because I can't put together a short form video very easily for all of my clients because I'm not there. And even if I was there, I'd have to be there regularly and taking lots of clips and bits and pieces. And so part of this is this drive for authenticity, rather than it being, well, is it just a social media manager posting? They want to see more about the business and more about you. And it's not easy because it takes more time. Definitely takes more time, but it is a mechanism that helps you to get across you and your business more. And like you say, a lot of people here do networking because they want to speak to people.
Yeah. Okay, so that sounds like a good point for the commercial break that I've just posted in the chat box. 25th of November, Rebecca is back, but back in person.
Fingers crossed.
Meeting, fingers crossed, at Carey's Manor. It's a morning meeting, 9:30 to 11:30 or something, or 10:30. I'm not sure, but starting
I think
at
it's 9:30 till 11, I think it is.
Yeah. It's a ticketed event, and the tickets are on the NFBP website if you want to take part. So thanks, Rebecca, for a great update on what the different platforms are doing. Interested to hear that video theme coming up time after time across them, and that is a nice lead into your event. But it's not just
doing it.
It's for real.
Doing it to help people get to grips with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you very much. Has anyone else got any quick news items they want to post before we close this meeting? Next week's business support hour, I think, is on the subject of apps. I forgot to look that up because I was out the
digital apps.
Digital apps, right? So. And that's the meeting I was supposed to be hosting with Vicky. So you might see me 2 weeks in a row, or you might see Vicky returning the compliment. But either way, it's good to see you all again here today. Hope to see a good few of you at next week's event. And I will stop recording at this moment.